Ready.
Oh, you can record?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We could do both. Back up.
I guess I'll start with I'll say just based on like leadership questions.
Sure.
So I guess we'll go with the first one. What is your definition of a leader?
Let's see here. So I would say like just kind of right off the bat, like the most obvious things, someone who just kind of takes charge and kind of like takes the initiative to kind of get things going and start, whether it's like for a project or for a group, start the planning process and then start thinking about the pieces that need to be put into place to accomplish whatever it is that the group's trying to accomplish. So just that person that sort of starts the process and gets things going. I also think that I think a leader, for me, has a lot to do with more actions than words too. So I think a leader is someone who has the ability to get things done and get things rolling, as opposed to someone that's a big talker and really doesn't accomplish much. So I think those two things define, or it's kind of the definition of a leader. But I don't know, I think there's really no clear definition. I think it's just more about, you see actions in other people that you can sort of identify as like, oh yeah, that's what a leader is supposed to look like, or that's what I would personally define as a leader. So yeah, that's it. Long enough answer.
No, it helps with the paper.
Yeah, right.
I would like starting off with tell me a little bit more about yourself, how you grew up.
Oh, sure. So I'm practically born and raised in the Valley. So I was born in Southern California, Valencia, but I think my parents moved to Fresno when I was about like 4 months old. So practically born and raised. I lived in Selma for 10 years, and then when I was about 10 years old, we moved to Northeast Fresno. So I'm a product of Clovis Unified. I was a Clovis West kid, and then went straight to Fresno State, graduated, and really never left the Valley. Always thought I was going to, but never did. How I grew up, I think typical family, 2 parents, an older brother. That's about it. That's about all the family I had here growing up that I can remember. I know my dad's side, my mom's in-laws lived here for a certain period of time, but I don't remember a lot of that. But I think a big part of my childhood growing up, interesting enough, is my parents' business. My parents had a Hallmark store, cards and gifts, for about 26 years. So they actually started it the year I was born, and retired from that business in, I think, 2011. So about 26 years roughly. And I actually had worked there since I was about 13 years old, paid. I probably worked there when I was a little bit younger than that, unpaid. But yeah, from the age of 13 to when they shut things down, I've pretty much worked there. So my holidays and 3-day weekends and a lot of my spare time was working at my parents' store, which I think taught me a lot. A big part of who I am and what I've accomplished today. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. One thing that sticks out in my childhood is because of our store. It's centered around the holidays. So, we would have Christmas, 6 months out of the year, July to January, to December, January. And we would get just so sick of seeing Christmas decorations. We wouldn't decorate the house at home. We've hardly ever decorated it. And I've just sort of got into decorating for the holidays in the last couple of years, because me and my husband, we have our home. And I'm like, oh, okay, like I've kind of gotten over that traumatic part of my life where I'm so sick of like the holidays, but now like we actually decorate. So yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. what are your passions?
Passions. So I should probably say my husband. My husband and I met in college, so he's a huge part of my life. We've been together it'll be 11 years in December, so it's been a long time. So yeah, I mean, like friends and family, that sort of thing. I really do love spending time with my family. I mean, I would say probably the biggest piece of my time, but also my passion, is my work. I'm a financial planner. I've been doing that for about 10, 11 years. Got the job before I graduated college and never left the company. Worked my way up from being kind of front office admin to essentially an owner, part owner of the firm now. So I have my own book of clients that I work with, and then so we're a financial planner. So a typical client of ours looks like a pre-retiree, retiree type individual. Kind of look at their overall financial picture and figure out what we need to do to sort of help them, guide them through retirement and through retirement too. So I have my own subset of clients, and then I also handle operations for the firm. So the day-to-day stuff. So I have staff that handles that stuff, the real easy things. But when kind of stuff hits the fan and things are a little rocky, that's when I'll kind of step in. But I also do things in HR. I do things with our compliance, our legal compliance. We're regulated by the SEC, so I do stuff in that department. I work on developing business. I work on marketing. I kind of do a little bit of everything. It's just sort of how I came up in the company. So I'm really passionate about not only growing our business, but even just financial planning in general. It's such an interesting topic, and it's ever evolving. Learning different, like I'm kind of a nerd, so like learning like different tax strategies and like estate planning strategies. Like I get so excited about that stuff. Like my latest thing is like I love like analyzing tax returns. It's like just like sick hobby. But I love doing that stuff because like when I can identify ways to help people through just what those numbers are, that's just the heavens open up. I'm like, yes, like I've done a good thing here. So I'm really passionate about work. I spend a lot of time at work, and that's been a huge piece of my time. Another thing I'm passionate about, and this is how Liz and I know each other, is our fraternity. I've been involved I joined the fraternity back in 2004, was it? Yeah. So what is that, 13 years being in the fraternity. So, I would say, there's a lot of different things you can do in a fraternity, but like just my favorite thing now, what I'm really passionate about, is just like mentoring college students, like, and it's in such a informal way, where, I think, like, it's not like a structured, like, oh, I do this, and this every day to sort of help someone. It's just sort of like, attending things and going to meetings and just kind of giving advice and like saying, hey, I experienced this, don't make the same mistakes I did, sort of thing. And just like collaborating with college students too. That's what I just really enjoy about the fraternity and stuff. So I'm super passionate about that. I think that organization has made a huge difference in my life, so I think that's why I'm so passionate about getting involved and staying involved too. So yeah, those are the big three. That's pretty much all I have time for right now. So beyond sleep and playing tennis, that's about it. That's about all I have time for.
And then the name of the company you're working for?
Portfolio Advisors.
And then you're a mentor for the fraternity, right now?
Yeah, mentor. Yeah, that's an easy way to put it. There's official positions and stuff like that, but that's the best way to put it, I think.
Yes, can you name a person who has like a tremendous impact on you as a leader? Like someone who's been a mentor, or like a huge influence?
So there's a couple. I don't know her personally, but growing up, I always looked up to Oprah. I just think, all the things that she's done in her life in terms of her personal background and getting where she's at, I think she's a great figure to look up to, even there's questionable business tactics. I think any big time leader has, but she was always someone I looked up to. That sort of thing. I would say, I mean, my two business partners at work, they're older than me. One is late 40s and the other one is in his early 60s. The gentleman in his early 60s, his name is Ken Hatfield. I've only known him for about 5-6 years, but I feel like I've known him for a really long time. He was head of community relations at the Fresno Bee before the Bee started downsizing. So he left the Bee, and he was actually a client of ours and came to work for us, and brought him on as a partner at the same time as myself. Ken and my other business partner is Mike Leffler. I essentially worked for Mike as a college student, and now I'm his business partner, which is a little weird. But between the two of them, I would say, I mean, they've been tremendous people to look up to and tremendous people to work with and work for. Mike is the silent but strong type. He sort of not let me do what I wanted to do in the office, but he sort of said, here's what I kind of need done. Go figure it out for yourself. And he didn't do it in like a mean or like a rude way. It was more of like, he's got other things going on that he needed to get done when I first started working for him. But it's sort of like that passive sort of leader, you would say, and that gave me a huge opportunity to really sort of figure things out for myself and just learn things on your own. I think that's probably the biggest thing he's ever done for me in terms of just letting me figure things out on my own. Because I think when you do that, you grow so much more as opposed to someone who kind of guides you from A to Z on how to do something you've never encountered before. So I think that taught me a lot, just generally about, first what I was made of, and two, how much I could actually accomplish, how much I was actually physically capable of. He's never one to like micromanage or anything like that too, so I think that helped me out tremendously. Ken on the other hand, he just has a lot of life experience. What he did at the Bee in terms of, he had to hire and fire people, he had to critique people, do performance evaluations, he had to work in teams, he had to work in situations where there was issues between employees, and he's got to step in and stuff like that. I haven't had a lot of that experience. I've been very, very fortunate with our staff and stuff at the office that we've never really had to, like break up fights or anything. So he's taught me a lot, just like what business is really all about, like how to treat people, how to work with people, how to resolve problems, best ways to approach things, be mindful of your words, regardless, with anything that you're doing, words really do matter and really do make a difference. I think, and Ken is, I think the biggest thing he's taught me is that when you take care of your clients, or when you take care of your customers, business, growing, revenue, all those things, all of that follows. That's like the biggest thing that he's taught me, because that's the thing that I always worried about getting into the advisory business, is that I gotta constantly be being out there bringing in millions of dollars and this and that and the other. You don't really have to do that. You work with your base of clients and you just serve them like they've never been served before. You just treat them well. You do everything for them. You go over and beyond. All that other new business, etc., all that follows right after that. As long as you do good things for people, good things will happen to you eventually. So yeah, between the two of them, they've been great people to work with, and just really taught me a lot, and just just good role models, I would say. Really easy to work with too. I'm very, very lucky. So yeah.
In your life or your jobs, what is your mission, core values, and your vision?
good question. Trying to think of what our little core value statements are. I think it's especially important in our business. We work as one of our core values at work is teamwork. We work in teams. Each of us has a very specific role in the office, and each of us has a very important role in the office to make the whole thing work for our clients. So teamwork is huge. Integrity is huge for us. I think the financial planning, the financial industry is such a bad rap, filled with people who do not have integrity, and that's a huge thing for us. Doing everything that's in the best interest of our clients is like pretty much the number one thing we abide by in the office. So integrity, and as financial planners, or the way that we're registered, we're legally required, if you will. What's called the fiduciary rule, the fiduciary standard is serving clients in their best interest. But I think before I ever even learned about all that legal stuff, it was just sort of instilled in us at the office that everything that we do, everything that we say, any interaction we have with the client, it's all got to be in their best interest. So I think one of the other things we really preach in the office too is that mistakes are okay. Big mistakes are bad, but little mistakes are okay. We don't, if in our line of business, you're dealing with people's money. So people, when it comes to people's money, they don't have a sense of humor about it when you make a mistake. So we try to do our best to prevent mistakes, and we're pretty darn good about minimizing that. But if anyone does make a mistake, I'm not the type of boss to just harp on somebody's back and say, oh, you did this, you did that, and you to point the finger and stuff. I kind of try to talk it through and say, okay, tell me what happened, tell me your side of the story, and usually it's a reasonable explanation of why something happened the way that it happened. It's never like anybody did anything maliciously wrong or that sort of thing. So when people do make mistakes in the office, we just work it out together. We don't try to come down on anybody too harsh. That's a huge piece of how we work at the office. What else? I would say those are the main, core values. I think of my little performance evaluation for my employees. I've got our core values listed at the top. I'm so bad at remembering stuff like that. Yeah, no one ever remembers those. But I would say the things I mentioned, I know for sure are on there. There might be one or two more that I just can't think of.
I guess what advice would you have for someone that's beginning their leadership experiences?
Another good question. I think one of the biggest things is just listening to people around you, just being a sponge for everything and anything that's happening around you, and listening to other people and soliciting feedback and input from other people. I think is hugely important, because I didn't know anything going into my line of work. Even when you start a new job or something like that, you know nothing. You really know nothing. And you have to realize that you know nothing, and to be willing to listen to other people and absorb what their experience is and what they've learned, and really try to pick up from that. So I think listening and observing is huge. The other thing too is, like I said, when you start a new job or you start a new leadership, to a certain degree, you don't know a lot, but also try to look at your past experiences to see what you have done that can help you. Because in any type of position, you're not going in there with a blank slate. You're just going in there maybe not knowing a technical aspect of something, or maybe not knowing how the different personality types of your employees and stuff like that. So once you kind of start figuring that stuff out, do draw from past experiences. Because for me, my biggest example of that is my parents' business and what I do now. I look back at the times that I had to work with disgruntled employees, disgruntled customers in my parents' business, when I had to figure out how to stock shelves and do certain things around my parents' business. I look at those examples all the time to help me with how to approach certain things today, or or just how to do things at work. So those past experiences are very, very important, and to be conscious of that. I don't think a lot of people are conscious of how that can help. Let's see, what else is starting in a leadership position. I think research is key. I think a lot of people, like when they start a new job or start like a new leadership position, you know, like whether it's in like a fraternity and stuff like that, I don't think a lot of people do their research. You know, I mean, there's like when it comes to like DSP, there's manuals out there that tell you, that give you a starting point, give you an idea. I think even with other jobs that are out there too, there are places and things that you can research to sort of help you build some knowledge base, so you aren't going in with a blank slate too. So I think research is key too. Just like doing your due diligence and like trying to like figure things out. I think that's important to a new leadership position too. So. You guys have to pick from like a long list of questions, or
No.
or you just have to think of questions on your own?
Yeah. What is one mistake you witness leaders making more frequently than others?
Oh, that's a good one. I think talking a big game is I've seen so many people do that. Whether it's, you know, like in the fraternity, at work. I've been on like other like boards, like at Fresno State, and like things like that. And I see a lot of people like, so this one, I won't talk about which board this is, but it's not DSP either. I was on this one board with like 15 other people, different areas of business and just different professions and stuff like that. Some were in like banking, some were, you know, a couple did what I did. A couple people worked for like hospitals, admin, just like a huge mix of like different professions. And to me, anyway, I'm the type of person, when I join a board like that, I'm ready to jump in and get my hands dirty, roll up my sleeves and get the work done, you know, because we had like a couple events that we had to put on every year. So I'm willing to do the work and stuff, and I'm willing to look at my set of contacts to see how they can help us and that sort of thing. So, but I don't like name drop or anything like that, right? In this board, and I've seen it elsewhere too, not just this particular board, this just happens to be a recent example. But in this board, I mean, like, I couldn't tell you how many times I went to meetings, and there was just a few of them that just had like the biggest, most obnoxious personalities in terms of like, oh yeah, I know this person, so I'll check in on them, or I know that person, I'll check in if they can help us, and it was just like, and I happened to be the one that actually tracked like the actual sponsors that came through and stuff. Those people who were telling me and just constantly name dropping and this and that, very, very few of their contacts actually came through. So to me, it was almost like they were showboating in front of the entire board. So it was a lot of talk and not a lot of action, or not a lot of proof in the pudding, if you will, to back it all up. And I've just seen that countless times. And I'm just like, if you're a person of means and have connections and that sort of thing, that's great. But I don't think you need to throw that in other people's faces. And if they can truly help with whatever it is that you're trying to put together and stuff, just go do your thing, and then say, okay, well, then, you know, the person who's sort of tracking, you know, what their contributions are, oh, okay, you know, I was able to get this, I was able to get this. Like, you don't need to be like showing off.
Make it happen first.
Yeah. So it's just like, that was one thing that really ticked me off about being on that board. It's just like, there's so many showboaters, and I'm just like, you guys hardly came through on anything. And it was, to me, the people who actually came through on stuff were the ones who were kind of the quiet, silent type, you know? They were just like, okay, we need help with this. Okay, great. I'm gonna go figure it out, and I'll come back and let you know what I've got going on. They were very humble. And I feel like people who are humble tend to be better leaders than those that are just kind of this big, robust personalities. I actually thought way back when I was kind of first learning about stuff and what I wanted to do, like I always saw these big personalities. It's like, oh yeah, I want to be like them. Like I want to be out and about, like people know my name and stuff like that. But the more and more I worked and the more and more I did what I do right now, I figured you don't really have to be like that to be successful. To be successful in life or to be a successful leader. I honestly think people who are probably the most successful are the ones that have a little bit of that kind of humble, soft approach to things. They're not these obnoxiously personalities.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a long-winded answer, but
Oh, no, you're fine.
I think that's a huge mistake that I've seen leaders make or try to make anyway.
Yes, all this stuff will kind of be a little, kind of repetitive too.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
What leadership behaviors do you use, and what are your core principles?
Oh, okay. So what leadership behaviors I use. So I sort of said this before, but I tend to listen and observe a lot. And it's not necessarily all about putting in my input and things like that. I just like to listen, observe, figure out what's going on first, and then I can kind of process that and then give the proper advice or the proper feedback to what is actually going on in the situation or whatever. So I listen and observe a lot. What else? I wouldn't say I'm an emotional person, but when something upsets me, it does upset me. And what me and my colleagues, we always have this saying in the office, the 24-hour rule. So if something if an employee does something that really upsets me or just really ticks me off, I give at least myself 24 hours before I even go talk to them about that particular situation. Or client makes me upset or something like that. I always give myself at least 24 hours just to sort of calm down, talk yourself off the ledge and stuff, and just so you can approach the situation in a calm, kind manner. You're not getting upset with anyone, but then you're also doing it in a very rational way too. When we get emotional, we tend to be irrational. So that's one huge thing that I abide by. Leadership behavior. I would say, I've never asked a teammate of mine or a coworker of mine, I've never asked them to do something I can't do. I've never asked them to do something that I won't do. And I've sort of grown up in our business too, so I've done everything. In terms of making the pot of coffee in the morning to, doing a full-fledged financial plan. I've never asked any of my colleagues to do something that I can't or I won't do. And then I think the other thing too is a huge part of the last probably couple years of kind of growing into a higher leadership role, if you will, at work is just delegating. I'm such a control freak, and I want to do everything. I want to manage every single detail. I'm just I just want to do everything myself because I know I'll get it done right, sort of thing. But when you run a business, you just can't do everything. And I've very slowly have realized that, and very much have delegated and made sure that other people can kind of handle certain things for me. And if they can't, or if it's new to them, I'll train them appropriately. But yeah, I think a successful business, there's no way I could essentially run my office all on my own. So delegating is huge.
Okay.
What are you doing to ensure you continue to grow and develop as a leader?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh boy. The latest thing I've been doing, and this has more to do with not necessarily just leadership style, but like growing my business, developing our business, trying to figure out how to get better at doing what we're doing. I listen to a lot of podcasts now. There's a podcast called, I think it's called Successful Advisors. It's by this gentleman by the name of Michael Kitces, Kitces. So this podcast is geared towards people in our industry and talks about everything. It can talk about specific financial planning strategy all the way to, how to grow your business and business practice, practice management and best practices and that kind of stuff. So I've been listening to a lot of those, and those have really been helpful to me. A couple other things I've done. So in our business fraternity, I continue to stay involved by holding different leadership positions too. So I'm the collegiate chapter's district director. So that's like an advisor, outside advisor to the chapter. So that person has to be a member of the organization, but they can't be a college student. It really can be anybody else outside of that. And then I also run our local alumni chapter too. So I'm the president of the alumni chapter, and then I have a board that I work with that does hold certain positions, and they hold certain types of events and stuff like that. So we kind of work as a team. So I think doing things like that, and like I said, I've been on like a couple boards, whether it's at Fresno State, at the business school, or Flip, Fresno's Leading Young Professionals. I did that ages ago. I was on there, on some of the committees and stuff like that. So I think like staying involved in some types of organizations and stuff, I've done a lot of that. And I think that really helps too, just learning how to deal with different personalities and stuff. Because like for me, like at work, I work with a lot of people who are older than me, 40s or older, in terms of like my clients and stuff. So it's kind of interesting because I tend to get along with people who are a lot older than me than actually my own peer group. So it's nice to sort of do those other things. So I have exposure to my own peer group and kind of, okay, yeah, what's the latest and greatest, what's kind of happening and stuff. And you continue to know how to communicate with your peer group too. So yeah, just staying involved in different things like that has been really helpful for me.
What do you think is the biggest challenge facing leaders today?
Not that I'm not for government regulation or anything, but we live in such a what they call litigious society, right? Everyone wants to sue everyone and that sort of thing. So I think sometimes when people are in positions of leadership, they're afraid to sort of criticize or not come down on their employees, but have those tough conversations. But sometimes having those tough conversations can be the best thing that you've ever done for that person, in terms of saying, hey, you made a mistake, let's try to fix this, let's try to work together on it and figure it out. You can't kind of tell a person, we can't really do that, when working here, sort of thing. And I know those conversations can be hard. Whether it's from I'm afraid I'm going to get sued by my employee or my employer, or no, I'm sorry, I'm going to get sued by an employee of mine, or just from, not having the proper training to handle those kind of tough situations too. What words to use, what language to use, how to approach it in a constructive way as opposed to in a very critical and demeaning way. I think that's a tough thing. So I would say, government regulations, stuff like that is always a challenge, but there's ways to, kind of overcome that. But I would also say, opportunities to learn leadership too. I don't think, it might be a combination of things. I don't know that a lot of leaders know of a lot of resources out there to help them become better leaders, but I think it's also kind of the lack of ambition to try things to help you become a better leader. It's a time management thing. If you have a family and that sort of thing, you don't necessarily have time to go to a 2-day-a-week seminar for 8 weeks to try to figure out, what's the best way to approach this situation, that situation. So I think there's just a lot of things that are expected of people in leadership positions, and they're not always necessarily the best trained for it either. So that training is really important. We try to, in our office, we try to send people to, and it might be more from a knowledge standpoint as opposed to a leadership standpoint, but we always try to, as the owners of the firm, we always give our employees opportunities. There's this conference coming up in San Francisco or whatever. I think this would be a great opportunity for you to learn something. So when it comes from your employer that, hey, my employer's taking interest in me and developing and becoming a better employee and stuff, I think that's an important thing to kind of express as well. I don't necessarily think it's a challenge. I just think it's a thing that a lot of leaders may not do. Try to identify opportunities for the people that they're trying to lead so that they can have the ability to grow too. So yeah, it's sort of a roundabout answer to your question, but yeah.
Your work, what are some important decisions that you make as a leader for it?
It's amazing how many decisions we have to make. Yeah, I don't even know where to start. So maybe starting with some nitty-gritty details. Our clients. So I am a part of the decision-making process on, let's say we have someone new come into the office and they want to become a client. I'm a part of that decision-making process as to whether or not they are a good fit for our company. So we don't necessarily take on all clients all the time. Me and my business partners and employees in the company, we talk about, is this person a good fit or not? So that's a huge decision that I'm a part of. I decide on how our clients are billed, how we charge our clients, things like that. So that's huge. Whenever, and this happens very little, but when it does, I'm involved. If there is a mistake that's made, so we trade every day on our clients' accounts and stuff. So if someone adds an extra zero to the $5,000 trade they were supposed to place, I'm a part of resolving that issue. So what the process is to go back, what if anything needs to be communicated to the client. If it's too late and they see it, and, we got to explain. Okay, this is what happened. We apologize. We have systems in place to correct this. We don't want you to worry. We're gonna. Sometimes we sort of reduce their fees or something like that if we make a mistake. We do what we have a system in place to help reconcile the problem if it happens. So I'm a part of a lot of that. I'm a part of the hiring. We don't fire a lot of people, thank God. We have very low turnover. So I'm a part of the hiring process. I'm a part of the training process with our employees. So right now we have an intern, we have a support advisor. So I would consider him like a junior advisor, and then we have a lead advisor who he's just like myself, except he's not an owner. So I get involved in their training, making sure they're staying on top of what they're supposed to be doing, making sure clients are happy with them, making sure they're learning things, staying on task, having them a part of my client meetings, stuff like that. I do a lot of the day-to-day sort of decision making too, so there's stuff like that. What else? If we pursue a new marketing plan, changes to the website, we're now in the process of sort of developing a niche for the company. So like I said, we don't take on everyone who walks in our door in terms of bringing them on as a client. We're looking at how to really specialize in the pre-retiree and retiree markets. So, you know, if I have a 35-year-old millionaire walk into my door, I'll think about bringing them on as a client, seeing if they're a good fit in terms of how we can properly serve them. But, you know, if I have a 50-year-old couple, $1 million or so, $500,000 or so, has a lot of planning needs. They have a lot of things that they need to do to line up their retirement. You know, I'm a part of, you know, that development of our business, making sure our business kind of heads that direction. I think probably the thing I take the most important role in is my clients. So they have a question about something. I have a lot of clients ask me, I need a roadmap for retirement. Like, what the hell do I do? You know, am I going to be okay? Do I have enough money? And leading them through that process, that's probably the most important thing I do. You know, you sort of indirectly, as someone's financial advisor, you sort of indirectly lead them. Like, they don't necessarily look at me as like a leader, you know, they look at me for advice. They look at me like, hey, am I making the right decisions? Should I pursue this business adventure? How much should I be saving? How much in taxes should I really be paying? As you know, what can I do to minimize that? You know, those are big decisions for someone to make in their life. So yeah, I take that very, very seriously, and that's a huge part of a lot of decisions I make at work. So I pretty much do a lot of that. It's in like every facet of the business, really. So. Is the name of your guys' class like leadership management or something?
Management 127, it's leadership.
Oh, it is called okay.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty appropriate to have you write a paper about leadership.
Temporary leadership.
Oh, okay.
When faced with two equally qualified candidates, how do you determine who to hire?
I actually had to do this about a year ago. Our intern has been with us for a little over a year now, and I actually had to choose between him and someone who was in the fraternity. That was really hard. That nearly broke my heart. I would say the reason that I probably chose the one candidate over the other, I don't personally believe, well, one of the reasons I chose them was who was the best fit for the position in terms of kind of stage of life. Like, we really needed someone who had more time in college and really could learn the business from the ground up and wasn't necessarily expecting a full-time job, as opposed to the other candidate who I would have felt really bad keeping him on as an intern for a year at an hourly rate. You know, he's out of college. He needs to get his career going. So that was ultimately what it came down to. But I would say a big part of his personality. I think sometimes people have the ability to just exude this like willingness to learn, enthusiasm for learning, openness to like people around them and what they have to say, and really just wanting to observe and learn all that and take that all in. I felt that was so strong with the candidate that we chose, and he's such a nice guy. He's just like great personality. He comes in the office, you know, fresher than a daisy to go for the day. I throw anything at him and he'll do it. It doesn't matter if it's like the most complicated thing or if I ask him to make the coffee, you know what I mean? Like, he'll do anything. Like, I joke around with my colleagues, like, if I ask this kid to mop the floor, I think he'd do it, you know what I mean? Like, he has that sort of passion and fervor, if you will, for working. I think the other thing too is I think he has a lot of grit too. I mean, he used to be like a busser at a restaurant, and if you've ever had any type of job in the restaurant field, it's a lot of hard work. It's hard labor, you know, and those are tough hours, long hours, late hours, and he just had this willingness to like, you know, give me work, you know, give me stuff to do, and you know, I want to make the most out of the time I have here. You know, he just had that willingness and that, like I said, willingness, openness, enthusiasm. He's really polished for his age too. I think communication skills were just like, I was like, how old are you? Like, it was just like so crazy, so mature for his age. That maturity, that ability to communicate, you know, when you're in a situation, when you're 20-something years old and you are in front of, I'm 32, my colleagues late 40s, my other colleagues early 60s. He knew, or those two candidates knew, all three of us were owners of the firm. To sit there and be asked questions by us and not even be like, I mean, he was nervous at times, but just to be able to answer the questions thoughtfully. He wasn't maybe necessarily right all the time, but to have that ability to hold your own in that situation, I mean, that was really impressive to me too. So, yeah, I think those things, you know, communication skills, just that enthusiasm, like, you know, you act like you want to be there. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people you interview, and they're just like, they don't even know why they're there. They don't even know what they're interviewing for. They just kind of, you know, lean back in their chair sort of thing. I mean, I can't even tell you how many candidates we had to do that. I'm just like, really? Like, you even want to be here? You know, we had people who didn't even dress the part. Like, you know, like, an advice, if you do your research, right, you know when you go for an interview, depending on where you go for the interview, like, dress the part. Like, we had some people showing up in sneakers and stuff. I'm just like, come on, like, you know, have a little common sense. So, you know, he just checked a lot of those boxes. I don't regret our decision. And I'm hoping, you know, I'm only one part of the decision making at work, and I'm hoping we can hire him full time at the end of the next semester. So that'd be June for president. So yeah, I'm hoping we can hire him. So.
Are you still a student? Oh wow.
Yeah, he's graduating next year. So.
You guys put in the door. That's good.
Yeah, definitely. That's exactly how I got started. So.
This affects your business, but can you explain the impact, if any, that social networking and the web has made on your organization or you personally?
Oh, sure. So me personally, I'm not a fan of social media. I use Facebook to keep in touch with people, and that's about it. And then to also publicize their fraternity events, but that's it. I don't post pictures of my food. I don't post how I'm feeling today. I'm not that person. I'm to a certain extent, very private person. So on a work standpoint, it's really interesting. So Our type of business, if you will, we're very dependent on, in terms of like marketing and getting new clients and stuff like that, we're very dependent on client referrals and COI referrals. So that's centers of influences like CPAs, attorneys, other professionals out there referring business to us. Insurance agents is another good example. So those are our two primary sources of building our business. Social media, on the other hand, is like, you know, if we looked at some studies recently, and it said something like 10 to 15% of new business is brought in by social media. So it's not a huge focus of ours in the office. However, and then I would say the other thing too is because of the type of firm that we're what's called a registered investment advisor, RIA for short. We're regulated by the state and federal government in terms of how we are able to communicate to people about what they would experience as a client. So I cannot tell someone, okay, yeah, I'm going to make you 20% every year. Can't do that. That's legally against anything that we can do. So we cannot have people give testimonials, or we cannot have our clients say, oh yeah, Tina's a great advisor, we love her, we love working with her, she's great because of X, Y, and Z. We can't do any of that. So that makes it a little tough. So social media is really great for like recommendations and stuff, right? So if we were able to do those things, imagine, you know, what we would be capable of in terms of growing our business. I would say the thing that we try to do when we incorporate social media, and we don't do a good job of it, and we don't do it consistently and often enough, is we have a quarterly newsletter that goes to all of our clients, and then we also have a blog that's really not very active. But through those two avenues, what we try to do is email our clients about kind of like what's going on with our office and stuff. But we also email them about timely topics. So like most recently, you guys heard about the Equifax breach. So the credit agency was hacked. Half of the country was affected, etc. So we get a lot of questions about, oh, what should I do about, you know, my credit situation, etc. How should I monitor that? So we'll put out a newsletter item about that and just sort of try to demonstrate value to clients and give them some advice with situations like that. But like I also talked about, like tax strategy or investment strategy, or you know, different types of strategies in your financial situation that you can take advantage of. We try to email our clients or blog about strategies like that add value. So they can, you know, like for example, you know, one of the most frequent questions I get from clients is, should I contribute to an IRA or should I contribute to a Roth IRA? You know, we'll put out articles on a quarterly basis, I should say, that may pertain to that topic. Do I have enough for retirement? What are the considerations? Putting out articles about that. You know, should I try to time the market? Should I just kind of stick it in for the long haul and not try to pick like the next Google and stuff like that? You know, we put out articles about that. So what we try to do, instead of trying to sort of market ourselves directly to clients, hey, come visit Portfolio Advisors, we're the best advisors in town. You know, we can't do stuff like that. What we try to do is say, we think about who our clients are, we think about the things that they need, and then we will email them or blog about things that add value to those things that they need. And if they happen to pass that along to a friend, or if they happen to, you know, have some money on the sidelines that they want to invest with us, that's our way to sort of build a business. So, yeah. So we're good old-fashioned emailers. But we are trying to, I think what we're going to try to do, we're going to try blogging more. And I think, I don't know that we're going to start a Facebook page. I think we're sort of thinking about Twitter, maybe tweeting a little bit more. The other thing we've thrown around the office too is maybe podcasting. I kind of like that idea. I think that'd be really cool. Because there isn't anything in the Central Valley like, you know, personal finance podcast or, you know, anything like that that teaches you those personal finance skills. I think that'd be really cool to do something like that in the Valley. So, and again, a great way to get out there and meet people and have people listen to you and stuff. So.
Have other questions?
I think we did good.
Okay.
Everything else is fairly repetitive.
Okay.
Like your leadership style.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really hard. You're pretty much just more hands-on action. Action speaks louder than words. Yeah.
Yeah. Have enough material.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good. Good.